Hello everyone, welcome back to your channel UGC Net Commerce Gyan Group. Let's quickly discuss book number 7 to book number 11 of Arthashastra, where the Kautilya explain how a king should organize the state, manage revenue, and handle the foreign relation, and always ready for a war, and some other miscellaneous topic. So book number 7, it's basically deal with organization of the state. So book number 7 discuss the bureaucratic structure and the organization of the state to ensure the effective governance in the state. So first key point of this book is that a state must divide it into the administrative division, like we have a different ministries like agriculture, trade, justice, defense, finance ministry, education ministry, transportation ministry. Like we have a different ministry, and each responsible for their specific function. Each officer has a defined role, responsibility, and accountability according to the assigned work. So state must be divided into the administrative division, and each department is responsible for their specific function. Then second, they have discussed the taxation and revenue collection are essential for the state financial stability, because revenue is basically considered the backbone of the governance. So without the funds, state may collapse. Yeah, without a fund, country may collapse. So funds are the important. They are the critical for the state financial stability. Then third key point of this book emphasize on resource management, like proper use of land, trade, forest, mineral without any wastage. Okay, so proper handling of goods and services and infrastructure to benefit the state. Maximum utilization of the resources for the welfare of the society. Next, call for the creation of specialized department to manage different aspect of the governance. So if there's any requirement, they can create different department to deal with different aspects. So next we have military strategy. Next we have military strategy. So military strategy is basically how to protect and expand the kingdom, right? So it's focus on the military organization, like well-trained or a disciplined army, right? Tactics, what kind of tactics they are using, like surprise attack, battlefield information, strategic positioning. Then, mm, then they should focus on the logistics to ensure logistics, like proper food supply, weapons and equipment should be there, proper transportation technology with the enemy, and try to undermine the enemy morale and try to have a competitive advantage in adverse scenario. Right. So even today, the modern warfare basically includes cyber attack or the psychological strategy. So that Kautilya has already understood this concept before 2000 years ago. Next, we have the foreign policy. So foreign policy, it's basically like core idea of it's like basically deal with strategic diplomacy and international relation. Like they have to deal with strategic approach a ruler should take towards the foreign relation and diplomacy. The key points of this book includes like they have to adopt a flexible and adaptive approach. So there's no permanent friend or enemies in the no permanent friend or enemies of the state. So they always think about the national interest first, and then accordingly frame the strategy. Then second is alliances. So alliances, it's basically based on the mutual benefits, and state or a country should prepare for the betrayal or changes in the alliances. So alliances is there based on the mutual benefits. Like if it is in favor of the country, yes, we are ready to make alliances, and plus we have to prepare in well advance for any betrayal or change in the alliances. Then next, quarterly advise a balance of diplomacy, like use different strategies when necessary, like strategic use of force if it is necessary, use different negotiation skills, try to have a competitive advantage in adverse scenario. So according to him, a real politics is when is a key of manipulating relationship using enemy's weakness to one advantage. So you can manipulate sometimes a king have to be can use the enemy weakness to his to gain the advantage. You have to have a competitive advantage. So that is the real politics. So a manipulative relation is fine to protect the kingdom. So this type of policy one can adopt. So Kautilya's foreign policy is basically a practical. It's not emotional at all. So it's, as you can see, it is totally based on the strategy, power, and balance. Like one should have the flexible and adaptive approach. So flexible and adaptive approach, like there's no permanent friend or enemy. It's you have to consider the national interest first. Have a mutual advantage. Alliances should be formed based on mutual advantages, and you can adopt any. Kautilya basically advise a balance of diplomacy where the strategic use of force you can use if it is required. You can have manipulative relationship. You can use the enemy weakness like to gain the competitive advantage. Yes, you can use that. So this type of policy you can have to manage or to protect your country. Then next we have management of revenue. So next key point we have is fair and efficient tax system. So tax should not be a burden on citizen. we want a progressive tax system to fund to fund the state activities. So we need a fair and efficient tax system, and tax should not be a burden on the citizen. Second, we have to think about the internal stability of the country, like strong economy basically ensures the political stability. Right, a good revenue system is essential for maintaining both internal stability and military readiness. So if we have a good revenue system, if we have a sufficient fund, um, within the state, then we can maintain both internal stability and military readiness. We have sufficient food supply for the army, weapons and equipment for the army, and transportation facility for the army to deal with to deal like surprise attack or to deal with any situation. So हमारे पास we have sufficient resources, we have sufficient funds to deal with that situation, right? So third key point is provide a detailed guidelines on tax rate and managing trade and industry to generate wealth. राइट सो एक प्रॉपर डिटेल में टैक्स रेट जितने भी हैं उसकी प्रॉपर गाइडलाइन होनी चाहिए एंड मैनेज दी ट्रेड ट्रेड एंड इंडस्ट्री लाइक टू क्रिएट अ वेल्थ मतलब ट्राई टू एनकरेज द इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज वेल्थ जनरेशन इज important, right? So economic activities is important to generate wealth or to create wealth, right? Or try to give advantage, try to give try to support your people by providing relaxation if it is possible, right? So provide a detailed guideline on tax rate कि क्या guideline है, किस तरीके का framework है, क्या tax rate imply कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? And encourage the economic activities and encourage the economic activities like agriculture and trade activities को focus करना है, fund करना है, agriculture जो farmers हैं उनको benefits provide कराने हैं to generate economic activities to create wealth. Then, then it's also discuss the balance between revenue and welfare. State must collect revenue, but also ensure the people well-being. Here, try to create a balance between the revenue and welfare of the people. Book 11 is the organization of the army, like structure and discipline of the army force, like proper army structure होना चाहिए, specialized army. Uh, army recruitment is based on their ability or the proper training and proper training. So recruitment should be based on the merit. And discipline and morale, it's important because it shows the loyalty to the king. And it's discipline basically shows the strict rule and a strict code of conduct, you can say. So discipline and morale are the key, ensuring that army remains loyal and effective to the king. So these are the important characteristics of the army. And next is ensure the unity and coordination across the various military units, because uh, a weak army invites the invasion, while a strong army can help you to protect your kingdom, right? So we need a strong army to protect the nation. Then book number 12 is King Policy. So detail King role in formulating and implementing policies across various sector of the state. So what kind of policy maker, what kind of policy should be like, what is the role of a king in formulating and implementing policies is discussed in this book. The key points are like king must have a chief policy maker. So we have already discussed in Saptan theory the role of Amatya. Amatya is basically the counselor and ministers, which helps the king, which basically advise the king in the important matters and helps to take decisions on important matters like economic policies, military strategies, and the political success. So king must have a chief policy makers, the counselor, which guide or advise the king on important matters and affairs of the country. Policy must be a dynamic that considering the kingdom's strength and weakness. So policy must be a dynamic considering the king's strength and weakness. Next key point, it's focused on that importance of careful decision making, ensuring that king make informed and strategic decision. So every king must be responsible for their actions. So every decision they take, so they have accordingly they have to face the consequences. So a king must be aware about its consequences, about its implications in well advance, so that they can deal with that situation. They can take action against that policy and against that decision if it is requirement. So that is the king role in formulating and implementing policies across various sector of the state. Next book is about art of war. We expand on military tactics like or battlefield strategies and the theory behind welfare. So how to deal book 13, it's basically deal with art of war. They can use different military tactics, battlefield strategies, and theory behind welfare. So in this book, they have discussed that army must have the sufficient resources or logistics to deal with different scenario at the time of war, or it's because the logistics ensure the sustainability of an army in long period at the time of war. Then it's focused on psychological play. To creating the confusion and fear among the enemy, they can play psychological, and they can create a rumor or create a confusion or fear to decrease the motivation or to decrease the morale of their enemy. And in this book, they have discussed the different strategies, tactics, approach like surprise attack, in more detail in this book. So battlefield strategy, military strategy, and theory behind welfare. So these are the three point that they have discussed in this book. First, focus on the logistic. They can play psychologically, and they have discussed the different tactics and battlefield strategies at the time of war. Next, book 14 is basically deal with the management of the kingdom. It's covered the economic management, agriculture, trade, and infrastructure need for the state prosperity. Key points of this book are like the state must manage the natural resources like land, water, and forest. They have to focus on infrastructure development like road, irrigation system, and market. Kingdom's economy should diversified with a strong agriculture and industrial output. Means they have to focus on economic activities to create wealth. Lastly, they have discussed the importance of trade both within the kingdom or with foreign lands. Importance of trade in domestic and globally. So that they have discussed in this book state. So it's this book is basically summarized all the principle that we have discussed earlier in more detail, and it's give a concrete example how to use this principle of governance that we have discussed earlier in different scenarios. And a king should adopt new situation and ensure that effective functioning of the state. And in this book, they also provide a real world scenario where the strategies must be adapted to ever changing the political landscape. Okay, so this is all about 15 books. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe my channel for upcoming videos.